معاشر المسلمين إخوة الكرام, constantly when we look into the Quran, you notice that في أكثر من 100 مواضع, in more than 100 places in the Quran, Allah mentions sabr. And as you know, and as I know, the topic of sabr is literally a generic one, which each one of us believe that is enough about sabr what we hear, either on the pulpit or in a lecture. But something that we turn a blind eye to, or a part where Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala mentions about sabr in the Quran, which many of us do not pay attention enough, is that you notice sabrun jameel. Not just sabr, but actually the best of sabr, the most perfect and beautiful patience, is only mentioned in 3 places of the Quran. 2 times in Surah Yusuf and once in Surah Al-Ma'arij. Have we ever wondered why? Have we questioned ourselves, why should it be so special that Allah would particularly mention it just 3 times, which is less than a handful, less than the number of fingers we carry? Let's go to the Quran أولا, before we go to the Aqwal al-Ulama. You notice that in both places in Surah Yusuf, as is used for sabrun jameel, is at a time when Yaqub alayhi salam had all rights to literally either have a go and punish his own children and say that they were lying while he already has received the news. And even when they were truthful enough, they've already broken their trust from their father. Basically, they have no image anymore in front of their father. But yet the same incident takes place while at that time it is the truth. It's exactly what's happening. But yet Yaqub alayhi salam decides to say what? فَصَبْرٌ jameel. And within those, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala teaches us that the solution of being able to have that type of sabr is given as the answer after it. Subhanallah. Al-Imam Al-Hafidh Al-Mufassir Al-Allamah Muhammad ibn Tahir, or Muhammad al-Tahir ibn Ashur, rahmatullahi alayhi, mentions in his tafsir Al-Tahrir wa Tanwir in Surah Yusuf, and he does not mention it anywhere else, but particularly in Surah Yusuf. He says, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ هُوَ صَبْرٌ لَا جَزَعْ وَلَا نَصَبْ فِيهِ وَلَا لَوْمٌ. Is where you are not tired of it, and it is not combined with the type of feeling where you get, if I wish, or why, or you're hurting to a position where you start complaining, even the slightest of it. That's what's called فَصَبْرٌ jameel. Why is it so relevant for you and I in a world that we live in today? Look around you, ikhwatul kiram. Brothers, sisters, my lovely family. We share the bond of Islam. هُوَ سَمَّاكُمُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِ. Ibrahim alayhi salam is the one that called us the submitters to Allah, al-Muslimin. From that time, وَفِي هَذَا آخر الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم بين الصحابة عندما هاجر المهاجرون إلى المدينة وأخذ الأنصار المهاجرين في المدينة وعانقوهم وجالسوهم وأعطوهم ما عندهم. The Sahaba of Medina, the Ansar, they embraced the Muhajirun when they entered, despite the turmoil of what they were facing. And he literally brought the ties of brotherhood between them. If brotherhood is what we think of blood, then the Quran clarifies it by telling us, Nuh alayhi salam asked Allah, وَنَادَى نُوحٌ رَبَّهُ فَقَالَ رَبِّي, O my master, إِنَّ ابْنِي مِنْ أَهْلِي وَإِنَّ وَعْدَكَ الْحَقِّ. Indeed, my son is from my family, And at the same time, your promise is the truth. وَأَنْتَ أَحْكَمُ الْحَاكِمِينَ. Immediately Allah tells him, يَا نُوحُ إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ مِنْ أَهْلِ. He is not from your family. إِنَّهُ عَمَلٌ غَيْرُ صَالِحٍ. He is a deed which is not righteous at all. He only became part of your blood, but he does not belong to your lineage. What is your lineage? Your lineage of those who believed in you. Believed the message. No matter how much they were undermined. And they had no value to the eyes of those whom Allah so-called, quote unquote, gave them everything of this world. You pay attention, you notice that as a father and a mother, as a parent in general, you try your best day and night, and it doesn't matter, we cannot blame the West alone. Look around you. Go back to our motherlands today, our homelands, where we speak our mother tongue. Are you willing to raise your children there? Simple question I'll ask you, and be honest. To yourself, not to the khutbah. Look around you. What land would you step in today where there is no fahisha? There is no habl of the shaitan. The chain and the silsila of the shaitan exists. Where around the world? Where is Halloween not celebrated? Christmas. أعياد التي ليست بأعيادنا. Celebrations which do not belong to us. Publicly, our children can see that. The education system, left, right, and center, does not show the importance of what they need the most, the essence of Islam. While as your parent you fight day and night, you pay their tuition for a private education, you work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, you pay for that education per month, and the cheapest you pay perhaps, which I can relate to over here, is 300 to 400 pounds, and I don't know how much it has increased up to now, per child, and perhaps Allah has blessed you with 4. So per month you're literally paying 1,600. Do you have a well of money that you can pay for them? But Allah helps, and He's always with you so that you can give them the right education. At the very least, that essence of Islam can be maintained, not revived, but actually that glow of the fire can still remain there at the very least if it's not ignited enough. Think about it. That, wallahi, ikhwah, is one example. Think about yourself. You go to work. Sometimes you face discrimination just because you are a person of a faith, let alone a certain background. Think about it. And to top it all, on top of all of that, worst case scenario, us between brothers and sisters, we literally have a go at each other that we cannot hold each other's hands. Now I'll ask you this. Umar ibn al-Khattab says, "As-sabr diya." Sabr is literally the light, the noor that you need right in front of you. This sabr, bis-sabr, حصلنا على خير عيش كما قال عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه. With this element of sabr, we achieve the best of life. But isn't it the Umar that literally Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam migrates, leaves Mecca? Then at that time he challenges the heads of Quraysh in Mecca, and he steps foot out of Mecca, the land that he lived, he grew up in. He was breaded and buttered in. But life was unbearable. He had to move. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to a position where now he has come back for the conquest of Mecca, giving back everything to the people of Mecca. The people of Medina started worrying, thinking perhaps our messenger won't come back to us anymore. But then he goes back to them and tells them, "What is it that's eating you within? Share with me." He let them speak. They expressed their feelings, their inner feelings, without hiding it. It's the love that they had with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When you love someone, you will never keep anything within. You will share every bit of that feeling with them. Whether it feels good or bad. Whether it's bitter or beautiful. And when they shared it with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam clearly tells them, don't you have me that I will return back with you and not all of this? اطمأن نفوسهم. Their souls calmed down at that time. How did they reach to all of that? فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. When was the surah revealed? In Mecca at the peak of turmoil. When they needed it the most. Look in the Quran. Contemplate. Tanabbah. Some of the ulama say that Yusuf Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam's life is more close to Musa alayhi salam. But if you look at the tafasir, they mention clearly to you that Yusuf alayhi salam's life actually with Rasulullah, they go hand in hand. Who were the ones that attacked Rasulullah? His own family. Who were the ones that literally chased him out of his own town, made him an immigrant? His own family. Who were the ones that handed Rasulullah the keys of Medina? It's the Sahaba. Who were the ones that gave Yusuf alayhi salam the khaza'in of Egypt at the time? Not his family, right? We're talking about blood here. And then when Yusuf alayhi salam gets his connection back to his family, إِنَّ الَّذِي فَرَضَ عَلَيْكَ الْقُرْآنَ لَرَادُّكَ إِلَى مَعَادٍ. أين المعاد? Mecca. The one who obligated the Quran upon you is the one that will return you back to your motherland again. Allahu Akbar. He goes back to Mecca. Through all of that, he had to survive turmoil upon turmoil. But what did he have? فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. Now as Allah mentions it over here, the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, they come to their father with the shirt of Yusuf filled with fake blood. You can literally see the traces. They are not real blood. It's not real blood. It's not the blood of Yusuf. لَيْسَ بِدَمٍ آدَمِيٍّ. It's not the blood of a human being. But he remains silent and says, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. And then he says, وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. ماذا قال ابن القيم رحمه الله تعالى في هذه القطعة من الآية؟ والله المستعان على ما تصفون. وماذا قال أبو الهلال؟ الشيخ أبو الهلال. الشيخ أبو الهلال, as he talks about sabr, what does he say? He says about this, at the time when Sultan Arsalan, he lived at those times, it was the peak of the ulama in the Seljuk Empire. I didn't have no idea about this. As I read through it, I realized he lived at this time. I only knew the man, but not the times he lived in. What happened with him? Not only would ulama at a caliber like his, or those who were beneath him, كانوا يطعنون فيه, they would literally poke him, speak ill about him. They went further to speak to whom? To the Sultan at the time, so that he can be executed. When he was summoned by the Sultan did not want to hear anything, because they told the Sultan, هذا الشيخ أو هذا الرجل ينشر البدع والانحرافات. What is he doing? He is spreading bid'ah and dalal, mischief and deviance around these lands. He needs to be put in jail. But luckily, as he realized and already heard why he's being summoned, how he approaches the Sultan was a genius move. And rather exactly as what Al-Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah did. When Al-Imam Shafi'i was about to go to prison, and then he told the man, Assalamu alaikum, and he said, Wa alaikum assalam. He literally responded back to him and told him, is this the salam that you are referring back to, the peace that you are giving? And the next thing you want to do, you want to execute me because I am the follower of those who believe in the Ba'alawis? The Khalifa had to stop him. Stop his execution. And exactly Shaykh Abu Hilal did the same thing. These were the ulama that existed then. لم يكونوا علماء فقط, but كانوا عقلاء. They had their brains. What do they say about والله المستعان على ما تصفون؟ أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم وهو البر الكريم. الحمد لله على إحسانه والشكر له على توفيقه وامتنانه وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له تعظيما لشانه وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله الداعي إلى رضوانه صلى الله وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وخلانه وسلم تسليما كثيرا وبعد. إخوة الكرام، Al-Imam Abu al-Hilal, he mentions that الصبر على مراتب. Sabr, there are three types. الصبر على الطاعة is being patient upon the obedience of Allah. الصبر عن المعاصي, and be patient that you abstain away from haram. لكن وهو الأهم الصبر على البلاء, being patient on every single affliction afflicted on you. Now we might think this last one is the difficult one. Lakin the Shaykh rahimahullah mentioned himself, the alim, that the most difficult of all, الصبر على الطاعة. The most difficult of patience is holding on to the obedience of Allah. And the most simplest example is when you know something is a nafl, a sunnah, or it is mubah, you can do it, and or something it is highly recommended because you have a choice. أنك لا تعاقب بماذا؟ بتركه لكنك تثاب بفعله. You are what? You are rewarded for doing it, but you won't be punished if you don't do it. You let go of it. For example, the nawafil that you pray after the faridah, or maybe salatul layl, that's the most simplest of what we can do what? We can understand. Or the best of what you and I can understand the most. When your family attacks you, left, right and center, it doesn't matter which family, as long as you share the same faith, and also to top it on top of all, you're sharing the same blood. They attack you left, right and center. They harm you. They are constantly chipping away from the thing that you hold on to the most. It can be your confidence. It can be something that you have that's holding on to you together. But because of them, you are suffering every single day. You have the choice, one of the two choices, of you can forgive them, or decide not to forgive them, or forgive them and sever the ties between you and them, or you can say you've forgiven them, but in reality you haven't. Now, whether you do any one of those, that's upon you now to do it. It's fine. But you know the best of all of that is when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was told in the Quran, in Surah Ali Imran, when the Sahaba were told to not let go and leave their stations in the battle of Uhud. What was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told? Regardless of what they have done, he had the right to be angry against them. He had the right to reprimand them. What about those وَعَلَى الثَّلَاثَةِ الَّذِينَ خُلِّفُوا? Those three who remained behind on the battle of Tabuk. They had to face that. It's what? It's a command from Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. But in this case, Allah says, وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. فَاعْفُ عَنْهُمْ. You forgive them, number one. And then you seek forgiveness for them. You don't just forgive them, you seek forgiveness for them. And in your affairs related to the Dawlah al-Islamiyya, to the state of the Islamic state, whether it's related to the affairs of the people of Medina, you still sit down with them in the parliament, in your parliament, and listen to their advice at the same time. Remember, at this moment, all of what they can think about, they failed. They failed. But was that a failure? Actually, no. It was a lesson to be learnt. Where do you apply sabrun jameel in this case? When you know you have to forgive, swallow your pride and swallow your pain and embrace your family regardless of what the situation is. But how do you do that? Number one, Wallahu al-musta'anu ala ma tasifun. You seek help from Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. As the Shaykh mentions, as-sabru ala ta'ah, this ta'ah that you hold on to and you are patient on is the one that allows you to do that, which goes beautifully with exactly what Ibn al-Qayyim fi Madarij al-Salikin, what he says, rahmatullahi alayh. Sabrun billah, sabrun lillah, wa sabrun ma'allah. Sabrun billah, ta'lamu annahu huwa al-musabbir. You are patient with Allah. Like basically, you are patient. You know that Allah is the one that grants you the patience. The patience does not come from you and I. We do not hold on to those keys. In fact, Allah gives us that ability. Similar to that of the woman of the time when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw a mother gathered on the grave of her own child and she was crying her heart out. She can do that because it's her child. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is telling her to calm down. She tells Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you are not the one suffering and you haven't yet experienced this. So leave me alone with my pain. The Sahaba go to her and tell her, do you know who the man was? That was Dhaka Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In that moment, she wakes up and realizes what she did, not because of her crying. What she was doing then was wrong for what she told the man. And she went to Rasulullah and told Rasulullah, I am patient as you told me, لِأَنَّكَ Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Rasulullah told her what? إِنَّمَا الصَّبْرُ عِنْدَ الصَّدَمَةِ الْأُولَى. Indeed, sabr, patience, is when you have or receive the first blow. When you receive the first blow, that's when you are patient. And what do you say at the same time? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Not only for death, for anything. Even if you have a sick child. Even if you've lost your job. But at the same time you say, Wallahu al-musta'an. Ala ma tasifun. Why did Yaqub alayhi salam have to say that? Because he knew he wouldn't be able to survive with this sabrun jameel, the beautiful type of patience, without having the help of Allah. How would he do that? عندما غم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم شيئا, when Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم or شيء have something to literally cause him distress, بادر إلى الصلاة. He would go to salah, because with that salah he would be able to attain sabr. لذلك يقول الله تبارك وتعالى واستعينوا بالصبر والصلاة. The salah is the key to that. Beyond that, sabrun lillah. Whenever Allah afflicts you with a problem, you are literally patient all the time. لأنه هو الذي يقضي ويقدر. والله يقضي بالحق. أليس كذلك? Allah is the one that literally destines with the truth. Anything that He has planned is going to be exactly as He planned it. Similar to the life of Musa alayhi salam. ثم جئت على قدر يا Musa. Everything that you went through, O Musa, bear in mind, we did not add a second or reduce a second. In fact, you came at the right appointed time. He wanted you to do what? To come. What do you understand from this? Ikhwah, the times we live in, whether you see your brothers and sisters suffering, you yourself are going through troubles and endless troubles. You know that. Each one of us have struggles that we are going through. But what we need, especially as Muslims, and particularly us dividing each other and allowing the enemy to conquer, is something that we have to avoid, and it would not take place without sabrun jameel. It's the same, brothers and sisters, regardless of what we believe. Regardless of how we are, that we share the same faith, we need to come together, especially at this time. But it wouldn't happen because you receive his blow, her blow, and everyone else attacking you, but it does not stop you from your duty. We have to have the armor of sabr. Sabrun jameel. Do you know what's the difference between us as Muslims, and I'll conclude with this, and them? Is that solution number 3, which I'll give you right now. فَاصْبِرْ صَبْرًا جَمِيلًا إِنَّهُمْ يَرَوْنَهُ بَعِيدًا وَنَرَاهُ قَرِيبًا. What does that mean? Allah mentions it over here as a command. فَاصْبِرْ. Be patient, صَبْرًا جَمِيلًا. The most beautiful of patience, referring to you and I. Because they see that judgment day, يوم القيامة, يوم الحساب, is literally extremely far for them. Or it doesn't exist. وقالوا ما هي إلا حياتنا الدنيا نموت ونحيا وما يهلكنا إلا الدهر. Except for this life that we have is the one that's taking us away. We'll pass away because of this. And for them it's only one life. We have multiple lives. A life when we didn't exist, a life when we existed, and a life where we're going to exist again. And that's in the hereafter. As they see it far, or perhaps don't believe in it, we know it's very close. We know it's very close. It's here, literally on our doorstep. How many of you have seen literally teens passing away? Youth at their prime passing away. Our parents are gone. A generation is being severed from us. They are gone. But how did they live? And how did they survive? If it wasn't for their patience for us, bearing our problems on their shoulders, for us to be the ones that live today. And if we don't do the same, whom are we leaving the next generation for? Have we forgotten the fact that to Allah is our ma'ad? And to Allah we will be returning? If we don't spare that little time with some beautiful patience as we are still breathing on this life, how would we be able to cross this bridge for the next path which is wide and open? There's no bridge over there. There's only a path that we are all going to be walking, looking at our destination, which is home. May Allah make us a people of Jannah. Ikhwat al-kiram, sabrun jameel is not attained without what? The help of Allah, without embracing Allah, and without understanding that we will be returned to Allah.